Hey guys, this is Matt over at CrossFit MB. I want to go ahead and show you a stretch that I show all my clients. This is kind of an all-in-one stretch. The idea is that we want to get you more comfortable in the bottom of a squat position. A lot of people who come through here who aren't particularly flexible are having a lot of problems with their pelvis reversing down at the bottom of a squat, and of course that can lead to pretty significant injury if you're loading that squat. So if you have any type of weight overhead, right across the front and the back, and it end up causing a lot of problems. So ideally what we want to do is we want to focus on getting you guys as comfortable in a rock bottom squat as possible without having that pelvis start to reverse backwards, so that we end up putting a lot of uneven pressure on the lumbar spine. So the way that I have everyone do this, and this can be done at home, it's very simple. Ideally we want you nice and comfortable at the bottom of what we call a third world squat. So basically knees are tracking over the toes, butt's close to the heels, right, and back is relatively straight. In this position, you can kind of relax a little bit, it's fine, but typically the knees are going to be right under the armpits, hands are going to be forward. The more time you can spend in this position, the better. But a lot of people who come in here really can't hit this position very well. Usually it might be tight adductors, it might be tight hamstrings, it can be poor ankle mobility, poor hip mobility, poor thoracic mobility. Whatever it is, we just want to get you guys into this position. Once you're into this position and we start loading those squats, we know we're not going to worry about you blowing out your backs by rounding under a heavy back squat. We know that you're safe in this position. So this, along with the deadlift and the overhead position, so basically sitting, we want you confident here, we want you confident here, so 90 degrees of hip flexion without having the pelvis reverse backwards. And then we also want you confident in a good overhead position with, again, pelvis at neutral, head forward without overextending at the lumbar spine. So that has to do with getting your last stretch. We'll talk about that later. So what I want you guys to do is, if you can't sit down in the bottom of the squat like that, you're going to go ahead and hold on to something, again, a pole, a chair, anything that's stable is going to be fine. And what we're going to do is you're going to basically start out wherever you would normally squat from. Usually heels are about shoulder width apart. You're going to go ahead and squat down, and you're going to go ahead and find the spot where you can get your butt closest to your heels. It might not be the spot you started from, so you might need to adjust your feet. You might need to point the toes out a little bit more. Typically, people with longer legs are going to have, or longer femurs, I should say, are going to have a wider squat stance. People with shorter femurs are going to have a narrower squat stance. But honestly, it just depends. So right now, my butt's about as close to my heels as I can get, and you can see how my pelvis is still tilted forward. So what's happening is that I'm not doing this right here, right? And ideally, in this position, I should be able to let go and still maintain it without falling backwards. So you're going to sit down in this position right here. You're going to collect maybe anywhere probably about a minute to 2 minutes just sitting in this position right here, right? So now, once you're done with this position, what you're going to do is now you're going to go ahead and kind of shift back into this position, just like this right here. This is going to kind of help stretch out your lower back a little bit. Lower back doesn't need to be stretched a whole lot, it does a bit, but you don't want to have a hypermobile lumbar spine. That's actually going to lead to injury. But just a little bit is fine. So you can see how I'm kind of getting back here. You want to go ahead and come around here so you can see me from the front. There you go. So once we kind of collect maybe about 30 seconds or so in this position, what you're going to do is you're now going to use your elbows to force your knees apart, just like that right there. Now we're kind of working on stretching out the adductors. So you're going to force those knees apart just like that right there, right? And again, I'm still keeping my pelvis tilted forward, right? You're going to feel that stretch go away if you start to kind of hunch down into it. So you really want to make sure you're staying nice and upright just like that right there, okay? Once we do this, so again, you want to collect maybe about a minute to 2 minutes in this position. And then what also helps is I get a lot of people with very poor ankle mobility. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and stretch out the soleus, right? So that's going to help get our knees further over our toes without our heel coming up off the ground. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take one arm and you're going to force it down onto the top of your thigh, just like that right there, while simultaneously you're going to try and bring this toe up to the knee, just like that, right? And so you're just going to go ahead and you're going to maybe alternate about 30 seconds on each. So hold this for about 30 seconds, right? Periodically try and bring that toe up to the knee. You're going to hold up just like this right here. Once you're done there,
go ahead and switch to the other side. You're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side, right? And again, you can see how I'm really not letting my heel come too high up off the ground. If we start doing this right here, now we're starting to mess with the meniscus, right? Posterior horn of the meniscus. Ideally, we just want to keep that heel right down on the ground while you use that forearm to kind of drive down just like that. And you should be able to feel a stretch in the back of your ankle, right? So that's what we're going for right there. So again, this stretch, this is honestly one of my favorite stretches. This gets almost everything as far as what's necessary to get into a proper squat position. Adductors, glutes, hamstrings, right? Hamstrings you get hamstring stretched by making sure, they look shortened in this position, but they're actually not if you maintain that proper pelvic position. They shorten once you start doing this. We want to make sure that you, go ahead and come around to the side just real quick so you can kind of see my pelvis here. So we want this right here. You can see how again, right, my pelvis has a nice kind of, I got a nice lumbar curve, pelvis is tilted forward, right? Be careful about this right here. You'll never be able to maintain your balance like this right here. You're going to fall backwards, right? Pelvis tilted forward, I can maintain my balance, right? So basically what I want everyone to do is to collect about 10 minutes or so in this position, right? Again, you can shift around, you don't have to stay exactly here, but you do want to focus on getting the calf stretched out too. But shifting down this position, when you stand up, make sure you bring the hips back. Try not to stand straight up like that. It puts a little bit too much pressure on the knees. Ideally, what you want to do is when you stand up, you want to shoot the hips back just like that right there and stand up, right? You can stand up if you start getting too stiff, go ahead and just stand back up anyways, but ideally combined, you want to collect about 10 minutes down that position. You start doing that every day, I guarantee you're not going to have an issue with getting down to the bottom of a squat without the pelvis reversing, and that's going to obviously bump up those numbers quite a bit. All right, so this is Matt at CrossFit MD. Thanks a lot.